The Glassmaker's Secret Venice, 1487. Elena had always believed the city of Venice was built on water. It was only on the morning her grandfather took her to Murano that she learned the truth. Venice was built on fear as much as on wooden piles driven into the lagoon mud. "Over 100,000 tree trunks hold up this city," her grandfather Marco said, guiding the small boat between the canals. "Oak from the mainland, driven so deep into the clay that no oxygen can reach them. Wood that cannot rot doesn't rot. It turns to stone." Elena looked down at the dark water, trying to imagine an entire forest buried beneath the palaces. They were headed to Murano, the island where Venice kept its glassmakers and its secrets. 3 centuries earlier, the Republic had ordered every glass furnace moved from the city to this island, officially to prevent fires from the wooden buildings catching alight. But everyone in Venice knew the real reason: to trap the glassmaker's knowledge on an island the Republic could watch. A master glassmaker who tried to flee Murano and sell his secrets abroad could, by law, be hunted down and killed by agents of the state, even in a foreign country. For 100 years, mirror-making was a Venetian monopoly so fiercely guarded that a clear glass mirror was worth more than a small fortune, and kings across Europe paid ransom-like sums simply to own one. "Is it still like that?" Elena asked. "Would they really kill a man for making a mirror in Paris?" Her grandfather smiled, the way old men do when a girl asks a question sharper than she knows. "Laws outlive the fear that made them, but old habits are hard to unlearn on this island." They stepped off the boat near a furnace where orange light spilled from an open door despite the summer heat. Inside, a man Elena's grandfather called Zuan was turning a glowing lump of molten glass at the end of a long iron pipe, breath by breath coaxing it into a bubble, a vase, a small miracle. Sweat ran down his face. The furnaces of Murano burned day and night all year because a glass furnace once cooled could take weeks to relight and might crack from the shock of reheating. "You want to know the secret of Murano crystal?" Zuan said without looking up, as though he'd heard the question 1,000 times from 1,000 children. "Not fire, ash. We burn a plant that grows in the salt marshes, and its ash gives glass that is clear as water instead of green as a bottle. My grandfather's grandfather learned it from Levantine traders, and we've been perfecting it since." He held the pipe out just far enough for Elena to feel the heat on her face, then pulled it back before it could scorch her. Later, walking back toward the boats, Marco pointed to a low building near the water with barred windows. "Do you know what that word means? Quarantena?" Elena shook her head. 40 days, he said. "When the plague came from the east, our ships were forced to anchor offshore for 40 days before anyone could set foot in the city, to see whether sickness would show itself. 40 days, 40 giorni. The world took our word for it, quarantine, and never asked where it came from." Elena thought of all the things Venice had quietly given the world without asking for credit. The mirror in a noblewoman's chamber in Paris, the word doctors now used from London to Vienna, the very idea that a city could rise out of nothing but mud and stubbornness. She thought, too, of the men on Murano who spent their whole lives feeding furnaces that never went cold, guarding a secret that had already slipped out to every corner of Europe 100 years before, whether the Republic liked it or not. "Grandfather," she said as they reached the boat, "if the secret was going to get out eventually, why guard it so fiercely?" Marco considered this for a long moment, dipping his oar into water that had swallowed a forest of oak to hold up a city of stone. "Because for a while," he said, "it made this the only place on earth where a piece of sand could become the clearest thing a person had ever seen, and that was worth protecting, even if only for a while." Behind them, Murano's furnaces kept burning, as they had for 300 years, and would for 300 more. turning ash and sand, patience and fire, into the small, clear miracles that would travel to palaces and cottages across a continent that never quite knew where they came from. Historical notes. The facts woven into this story are real. Venice genuinely rests on wooden piles that petrified underwater. Murano's glassmakers were relocated by law in 1291 and were, for a period, forbidden, under threat of severe punishment, from leaving to practice their craft elsewhere. And the English word quarantine does derive from the Venetian practice of 40-day ship isolation during plague outbreaks.